It was a beautiful day in a small town in Africa. A wedding was taking place. Everyone looked excited. As the pastor asked the lady to say her vow, a man named Larry arrived late at the wedding and was shocked to see his wife getting married to his elder brother. He shouted, "No! What is going on here? You cannot marry my wife. This is my wife and we have a son together." The crowd went crazy. The lady started crying and ran out of the wedding, got into a car and drove off. The two brothers went after her. 9 months earlier, Jane, a very beautiful lady who lives in the big city, she is an architect. She has been working freelance for some time, so she works from home. One day, Jane lands a big project to design and facilitate the building of a mall in a small community. She was very happy to take up the job because she has always wanted to get away from the big city, and the project will give her the kind of satisfaction she has always wanted. As she moved into the small community, it is a warm and welcoming environment. Everyone there were friendly and kind people, so it was easy for her to get along with them and her work. But the first thing people notice about Jane is how beautiful she is, and also has a very kind heart. She goes out of her way to help people, and that melted the hearts of most men in the community. For that reason, men always ask her out, but her mind is focused on her job. One day, at the construction site, Jane wasn't feeling well. The manager in charge of the mall asked Jane to go home and get some rest, so Jane left the construction site and decided she would walk down to the guest house where she was staying, just to exercise her body a bit, as the guest house was not far from the construction site. As she was walking down the road, she saw a young handsome man dressed very simple, coming toward her. The man asked her if she is coming from the construction site, and she said yes, but she is on her way home as she is not feeling too well. So the man said, "Why are you walking? Why not call an Uber?" Jane refused and said thank you, so the man offered to walk with her. She smiled and said okay, seeing that she needed the company due to how she was feeling. As they walked down the road, everybody in the community were staring at them. The man introduced himself as Marcus. Jane said, "Nice to meet you." He started asking her about the mall and what her job is. Seeing that construction work is not for women but for men, Jane smiled and was trying to explain, but her health began to get worse. She started feeling feverish. Her strength started failing her. Her eyes was turning and she fainted. Jane woke up in the hospital and realized it's been 3 days she has been out, due to stress of overworking. She asked the nurse how she got to the hospital, and the nurse said, her husband brought her in, and he loves her so much. He has been by her bedside all this while. He just stepped out to go get something. He will be right back. Then the nurse told her, "You need to get your rest," and left. Jane was confused. "My husband? But I am not married," she said to herself. After a while, Marcus came back and found her awake. He was so happy. Jane thanked him for bringing her to the hospital and asked him, "The nurse said you are my husband. Did I miss our wedding?" "I can't remember." Marcus laughed and said, "If I didn't say that, you will not be admitted in this hospital. It's for only the rich and wealthy. They know I don't have a sister, and saying you're my wife was the first thing that came to mind, so I just went with it." Jane thanked him once more, and she started getting worried about the mall supervision. She said, "I need to leave here as soon as possible. I don't want to breach my contract at the mall." Marcus smiled and said, "Just get better. I have taken care of that." Jane was surprised. She asked him how. "Who are you?" "I only know your name. I don't really know who you are," Marcus replied. "My name is Marcus Grant. I am Grant Enterprise, the owner of the mall you are building." Jane was surprised. She said, "How?" Marcus said, "I only came to see you that day, and to see the job you are doing. I have heard about you and how committed you are with your jobs, so I awarded you the contract. I only came to see how the project was going, and I found you walking to your guest house." Jane said, "You're Mr. Grant. But you. Marcus cut in, "I look young, right?" Jane replied yes. Marcus smiled and said, I took over from my father, he has retired and went back abroad, so I wanted to build something here for my community, to give back to the people. That is why I decided to build a mall here. Jane thanked him again for taking care of her. After 3 days Jane was discharged and she went back to work. Marcus stayed with her till she was fully okay and he went back to the city, but they never lost touch. They chatted almost all the time. It was obvious, they were in love. 6 months later, the project of the mall was completed, but Jane decided to stay in the small community. She has fallen in love with the people and the lifestyle there. Jane and Marcus were finally in love, but they still maintained a friendship position, until the day the mall was commissioned. Marcus, who has been in and out of the town because of Jane, finally proposed to her at the launching of the mall. Jane said on one condition, if you would get married to her in the town, and Marcus was the one that said yes. Before Jane said yes, I will marry you. It was a happy moment. The whole community were happy for them. 1 month passed and finally the wedding day came. As the pastor was about to join them, Larry, who just arrived late into the country, walked in and shouted, "No, what are you doing? You want to marry my wife? The mother of my child." Jane saw Larry and started crying. She ran out of the wedding venue and the whole thing stopped. Marcus was confused. "Jane, your wife? How?" Jane got into a car and drove away crying. She went to her place and locked herself in the house. She refused to see anybody. Marcus and Larry came shouting and banging the door, but Jane refused to come out. After 2 days, she called Marcus and Larry to come over, that she wants to see them. As they got to her place, Larry asked her, "Why do you want to throw away all we shared?" "I only left the country to make things right and come back for you. Where is our son?" Jane replied, "He is fine. He stays in the city with my friend." Marcus was surprised to hear that. He said, "How can you be married, Jane? How? You told me you are pregnant for me. How can you be married and you never told me? Not just married, but married to my brother." Jane replied, "Yes, I am pregnant for you, but I never lied to you. The truth is, my name is Jane. Not Jean. Jean is my twin sister. I suppose Jean is Larry's girlfriend. Because my sister is not married, I would know if she was." Larry said, "I promised her I was going to come back for her. I had a lot going on. When she fell pregnant, I engaged her before I traveled. Things just didn't work out the way I planned." But wait. Larry was surprised. He said, "You are a twin?" Jane replied, "Yes, I am." Larry asked, "So where is your sister Jean and my son?" Jane said, "Jean and I own the company J&G Projects. We are both architects. Jean had news that you abandoned her and married a white lady overseas. She felt very bad and fell into depression. She couldn't concentrate anymore at her work, so I asked her to step down for a while and get herself back on track. One day, I landed a project with huge sum of money. I went out to celebrate and got drunk. As I was driving home, I ran over a man who later got paralyzed. Before the police came for me, Jean took my place, since I was the one working at the time and taking care of the 3 of us, me, Jean and her son Nick. So, Jean went to jail on my behalf, and she is to be released 2 years from now. Since then, I have been working and taking care of Nick's school and putting money aside for Jean as her own profit when she gets out. I couldn't bring Nick here to stay with me. He is doing so well at school, so he stays with my friend Sonia in the city." Marcus added, "So why did you have to ruin our wedding? Seeing that you are not Jean, but Jane." Jane replied, "There is no way to explain to Larry that I am not Jean. He will not believe me because we never met. And I didn't want to tell the whole world my little secret. Then it hit me. My sister and I swore to each other that we would be at each other's wedding. So when Larry showed up, I remembered our vow and I broke down. I had to leave the venue." But to my greatest surprise, after the whole thing happened on the wedding, I got back here and found my twin sister sitting here in my house. She wanted to surprise me. She was released early for good behavior, and wanted it to be a wedding surprise for me, so when I left the wedding venue and got home, I found her here. My sorrow turned into joy. I couldn't open the door because we needed to sort things out before we speak to anybody. The two brothers were relieved. Larry said, "I never knew Jean was a twin, and I never abandoned her. It is a long story. Where is she? Can I see my Jean?" Marcus said, "But why didn't you tell me you had a twin sister?" Jane replied, "I am ashamed of what I did. She went to jail because of me. How can I be so bold to tell you that my actions sent my twin sister to jail?" Larry shouted, "Jean, are you there? Are you here?" He turned to Jane. "Where is she? Can I see my Jean?" Jean came out of the bedroom. She looks just like her twin sister Jane. Larry and Jean hugged. Larry said, "I am truly sorry. I will explain everything to you. Please forgive me. I tried to reach you severally, but your number wasn't going through. I am truly sorry for all I put you through." Few days later, Jean and Larry, Marcus and Jane all got married the same day. It was a great celebration and they were celebrated by the whole community. Story ends. Moral of this story: no matter how happy you are, celebrate with your mind intact, because life will humble you. I remain Uncle Sam. Stay safe. Please subscribe. We want to get to 50,000 subscribers before the end of this year.